Chapter 31. Experimenting. Back home, the construction was still going on, entering the phase when people were building the outer city, where most future residents would find a home for themselves. These houses were less spacious, and not meant for those who had been there since the first day. Still, they were leagues better than what most people were used to, and the moment they were finished, we could begin erecting the first wall around the city. That will be an actual undertaking. As groups were emerging, with enough experience to take over in delegating the work and showing the newcomers how it was done, I was free to start studying my newest resource. My first problem showed itself when we were still returning with Sasha, and I tried breaking one of them apart. It just didn't work. Even if I beat it against a slab of stone, it remained whole, without scratches or dents. Then I tried cutting it. Nothing. Smashing with a hammer? No results. I threw it into a kiln. Of course, it withstood it without a problem. It didn't even get hot. Is this the most resilient piece of ore in the world? Or what? Well, this is a problem. I shrugged, visiting Sasha, who was in the middle of designing the interior of the palace, and she was wholly immersed in how it should look, working on it with none other than little Merlin. What problem? They asked, turning towards me. I am running out of ideas on what to do with these CCs and how to split them apart. How are they mined? Merlin asked, quickly narrowing it down to the question also floating within my head. It is a good question. I shrugged, rubbing his head, but I can't really go to the Empire. Ask them, hey, so, these strategic resources that only you can access, so how are they mined? Why? Oh, I'm just curious, that's all. I see. He nodded, thinking, you are right, my lord. And magic won't be of use as they react to it then. Why not hit one with another? Fuck, I stopped as I exclaimed, wanting to hit myself instead. That's it. Leon, not before the child. Sasha grumbled, but Merlin just looked up at her with an innocent smile. I heard worse. I know that coarse people use it to express intense feelings when they can't do it otherwise. You little shit. I grinned, pulling on his face, stretching it. Are you calling your daddy here uncultured? No, my lord, he giggled, answering without complaining. Tsk, you win this round, kiddo. I don't know why I never thought about that. It is evident in hindsight. I started out small, beating two at each other, and the moment the impact happened, both shattered into a dozen pieces. Okay, so this needs to be refined, or I will destroy my stash. For the second try, I picked out basically the same sized CCs, and this time I put one on a table and hit it with the second one. Success, I exclaimed when only one was smashed apart like a glass. How quaint. I couldn't help but wonder about the properties of CC. What happened right now partially ignored a fundamental natural law in my previous life, so I had to develop some tools to help me study it. This led me down a road that kick-started some extra development I didn't expect. First, I needed a universal weight system, as I couldn't go on with my feelings alone. I could have used what was present in the Empire's books, but they were using past emperors' body parts as a base. Screw that. So, how did I decide about what was a kilogram? Easy. Thanks to my memory, I could quickly determine how long a meter, centimeter, etc. was, and I had already used it while building the city. It was normal for me to draw the plans with those included, and Merlin had already taught it to the masses. The little genius didn't even question it, accepting it at face value and deriving the rules of the decimal system, correctly guessing all the exchanges. I was still somewhat doubtful he was not a reincarnated person. Oh well, less work for me. Going by the same method, I grabbed a bucket and drew the scales on it after recalling a simple image within my brain box. When it was done, I filled it up with water. And there, 1 liter of water equals 1 kilogram. Of course, I knew it would be off because of the weight of the bucket, but well, I am creating it now. In this world, 1 kilogram will be this from now on. And if one of my old teachers pops up here, he can suck it. Now it was time to make my weights, and as they were nothing but lumps of iron, it was easy to make. The best thing to train my future blacksmiths on. I quickly gathered individuals who either showed interest or even had some background in making horseshoes, fixing tools, and the like. After reworking Sasha's formation inside the blacksmith's workshop, it was burning with less intensity, making it bearable for us, mere mortals, to exist. For what I needed now, this was enough. I began introducing them to my new invention as I was explaining it. It was less challenging than I expected, and I saw Merlin lingering close by, watching intently, nodding his little head occasionally. After a few tries, the first ideally 1 kilogram plates were made. I left a set for them to replicate and gave them my first scale to measure the completed pieces. I was glad to see that Merlin jumped at the occasion, that there was something new to learn and teach. And by the time I left, he was explaining to the others again why it was crucial to develop a new, unified system. Now, where was I? I murmured, snapping my fingers as I remembered. Yes, I wanted to weigh the CC fragments. After a week's worth of detour, I was back at my initial experiment, putting them on my new scale with the correct weights, and there it was. No matter what I did, they all had the same weight, 1.5 kilograms. The one that was as big as a ring, 1.5. The one that was the size of a head, 1.5. Magic, I murmured as it was inconceivable yet real. Even if I broke one apart, the two new sides were identical, 1.5. The other weird thing was that when breaking them up, the stationery was the one that always broke apart when hitting them against each other, even if I smashed a smaller CC against a much bigger one. Was this a perfectly elastic collision? Where did the kinetic energy go? What the hell was happening? I didn't know. What I did know was that they acted like nothing I had knowledge about. I was never a scientist, only an engineer. So it baffled me, but it was not enough to make me stuck. So what if their weight remained the same? What if they don't indeed follow the laws of energy transfer? These were fucking magic crystals. Hehehe. After developing a more sophisticated version of breaking them apart, I could start determining their efficiency. Are the big ones better, or could the smaller ones do the same? That experiment happened once again at the abandoned mine. Oleg made sure to surround the area with his men, keeping everyone from coming close to sabotage us while doing the tests. I brought Merlin along this time, and he was so excited I barely recognized him. I had never seen him chatting and babbling so rapidly, asking 100 questions about CC and magic, to which I had no real answers. Merlin, we are here to explore what they can do. So if you want answers, you must also start experimenting with them. Okay? Yes, my lord. He nodded while jumping up and down in place, saluting towards me. Calm down for now. This can be dangerous. Last time, Sasha shot a fireball at me. It was an accident, she shouted back, hearing me despite being almost 100 meters away. Understood, he grinned, hiding behind me. You little… Heh. Okay. I shrugged, waving at Sasha. Do it. She was standing with a lump of CC in hand, almost as big as Merlin's little head. After focusing her thoughts and mana, a formation appeared right behind her once again before a fireball flew out, hitting the water in the flooded quarry this time. Whoa, both of us exclaimed as Merlin's eyes were shining brightly. Of course, Sasha was not finished, as she was switching to a smaller piece about the size of an almond. The fireball came out once again, but as I had expected, it was weaker. Noticeably weaker. It broke, shouted Sasha, and after turning off her magic, she rushed to us, showing the tiny CC continuing to crumble until it turned to dust. So there is a size that makes them into a one-use item. I nodded. Maybe the big ones are also eroding. Would using them multiple times end in them breaking apart? This will have to be tested. I will do it, Merlin yelled, and I couldn't help but laugh. You just want to play with them, no? Yes. Honest boy. I grinned, ruffling his hair and nodding. Leon, is this? You know, Sasha murmured, feeling shy, but he may be too young to feel that way when holding it. So far, he didn't mention anything weird when standing close to CC. Ah. Well, right until Sasha gave him the big one. The moment it landed in his hands, he dropped it, falling to his knees, his face turning bright red, and it was the first time I saw him close to crying. I peed, he sniffled, looking up at us, panic-stricken. He's yours. I shrugged, and to my surprise, Sasha, like a good mother, quickly ensured Merlin was cleaned up and changed without any awkwardness. On the second try, he was now much more collected, expecting something strange, and with a serious face he resisted, nodding his little head. I withstood it. You are both meanies. You didn't tell me about it makes you pee. Holding my laugh, I chortled, unable to fully keep it under wraps. We thought it would not affect you as you are still too young. Now I should do magic stuff, yes? He asked, quickly forgiving us, as he was keen on learning something new and exciting. Yes, but it was too late. A massive blue formation appeared right under our feet, spinning way faster than Sasha's. Look at that, I murmured, memorizing the symbols as fast as I could. Leon, cried Sasha, and I watched her panic as a red formation materialized behind her, responding not to her mana, but resonating directly with Merlin's. A new fireball was forming in the hand of Sasha as she began sweating and breathing heavily. I could not feel any heat coming from it, which just made it more dangerous. Lord? I heard Oleg's shout, already rushing in, but that would be useless anyway. Aim towards the sky, I said, holding Sasha, helping her aim. When Merlin managed to snap back to reality, he quickly began reining in his powers, trying to turn them off. The moment his formation disappeared, Sasha's spell blasted off, throwing all of us to the ground. Looking up towards the sky, I watched a bright sphere soar higher and higher, just like a rocket launch. It had to be a few kilometers high when it finally exploded. The sound reached us a second later, and it was like a dragon's roar, echoing through the whole region. Holy shit! I gasped, sitting up. That was fucking awesome. The ball of fire was still flickering and glowing in the sky, dying off very slowly. Lord, I arrived at Oleg with another shout, inspecting me first like I just survived an assassination attempt. We are fine, fine. I waved my hand, checking on the two mages, and Merlin was at the edge of tears again, feeling he had done something terrible. Chin up, kiddo. I grinned, patting his face. This is what experiments are about. This is progress. If this is progress, Sasha moaned, unable to move. I want to rest before we make another advancement. I feel numb. Like when we… Shut up, she groaned, turning red as a tomato. Not before Merlin… What is it? He asked sheepishly, returning to a good mood after my encouragement, and I couldn't help but tease them a little more. Nothing, Merlin. Sasha here just peed herself the same. I did not, but you usually do when… No, don't listen to him. This time I didn't hold back any laughs, as I was not just happy but excited. Magic. Damn. I need to harvest its forms. If I can manage it, I will have rockets that can escape the pull of gravity before I invent any type of combustion engine. Chapter 32. Unexpected Trouble. For the next few days, I was holed up in my library, using my newest, shiniest giant tables filled with drawings of the magical circle that appeared under us. My goal was to gain some understanding of Merlin's ability, as it was clearly some strengthening type. He was a natural support character. Previously, he made the formations at the mine work better now, with his mana being focused, which forced Sasha to release her own spell without any chance of saying no. Looking at the hundreds of new runes inside of it, I finally got an even clearer picture while replaying in my mind what really happened. You should rest a little. It was Sasha who arrived, gently rubbing my back, but I was too excited even to register her words. This is awesome. I began blabbering like a little child. Looking back at it, Merlin's magic is acting like an amplifier. The moment it activated, it sensed your presence, and look at this. After a bit of rummaging through the dozens of big papers filled with my drawings, I found the one where I circled a dozen or so runes. Look, this is precisely your formation. Mine? You mean the one I left behind on the ground once? Exactly. Merlin's own rotated and threw out the unnecessary runes right until the point they matched yours. It automatically synced up with yours. Do you know what this means? It means Merlin's magic formation has all the runes. I have all the building blocks of magic. Right here, right on this table. Are you sure? She asked, feeling it hard to believe. No, but I am pretty confident. The fact that it mimicked yours and amplified your strength means that Merlin can use his inborn gift to boost any other mage's output. He is like a little dynamo. What's that? A little mechanic thing that converts… doesn't matter. What I'm saying is that if your spell has a strength of 10, with Merlin's help, it will have the strength of 100. He is invaluable. Is he? She murmured, sounding dejected, smiling in a somewhat sad and jealous way. Don't be like this, I giggled, hugging her waist. You are just as invaluable to me. I whispered, kissing her cheek. I will still need to study these runes a lot as I can't really reference them, and putting them together willy-nilly could cause problems. I don't want to blow us up. Yeah, me neither. Anyway, it explains why he is good at learning and teaching. His natural disposition is to help others get better. I think the moment he becomes a teenager, I am going to make him my prime minister. It is best to delegate tasks so everyone can focus on the things they are the best at. He is already teaching a lot of the others. He will help me select the perfect person for the posts I need. And? What will I do? You will be my empress, of course. So you will help with my personal projects. This immediately drew a happy and satisfied smile onto her face, and I was about to kiss her when a knock disturbed my thoughts, and Oleg entered, saluting at us. I have a report to make, my lord. Yes? It's from the hyenas. Sasha looked at me questioningly, and I just chuckled, telling her I gave that nickname to the gang of Yuri. I felt it to be reasonable. What happened now? They had their second raid, and they found... Don't tell me it is another stash of CC. I shouted, my heartbeat increasing. I can't have this land to be a secret source of their crystals, or I would be fucked. If I disturb the flow of their rare resource, they will come in force to establish order, and that is the end of my dreams. No, Oleg answered, surprised by my fearful voice. Phew, hallelujah, that would have been catastrophic. Why? Sasha asked, but before I could continue, Oleg interrupted me hastily. My lord, they found evidence of collusion between the church and minor nobles. They are mining CC and selling them to other regions under the table. What the fuck? What a nice place I will live in. Cool. You won't be living here, Sasha said coldly, watching Uribasida looking around my half-completed throne room. I think the white and gold is coming along nicely. A bit of red would make it pop. And I only slightly looked up from my chair in the middle of the raised platform, watching her spin over and over again, taking in the room's appearance. I was somewhat satisfied as this place would be where the future of my own little empire would be decided. Right now, only my throne was prepared, and the space before it was still empty. Still, soon enough, there will be a long table where my future ministers can sit down, have their debates, and present their conclusions to me afterward. It's not real gold, I spoke up, interrupting them, my eyes returning to the stacks of papers in my hand. It's just paint. Really now? Yuri hummed, walking closer to one of the golden pillars, touching and knocking it, and feeling that it was made out of wood and painted to look like solid gold. Is this made with magic? It is so real. You can think of it like that. I shrugged, not wanting to explain it to her. That was when Sasha chortled, looking down at her. It is made out of beasts. It's pretty easy if you have a little basic knowledge. But that would be too much for you. Enlighten me then, my queen. Yuri grinned, turning towards her, and before Sasha could react, she slapped her butt. We will be having threesomes a lot, so don't be shy. Educate me, and I will educate you on how to please a woman. You. Enough. I snorted, but deep inside my mind was already picturing some really wild images. Damn it, brain, get a hold of yourself. I found out when young that the beasts from the mountain's other side are strange. Some of their livers produce paint-like fluid in this gold color when they are being disemboweled. It is odorless, which is weird, anyway. I painted my throne room with animal guts. Happy now? That's badass, my dear. You are making me wet again. Yuri grinned, letting Sasha go, walking before my throne and looking up towards me with a grin. Once again, she was barely wearing anything, letting her scarred and somewhat mutilated body be on display. Brain, stop. Don't be horny. Enough. Whore. Sasha spat, walking past her and sitting on the armrest of my chair, gently caressing my hair, providing a very seductive image, clearly provoking Yuri. My dear wife, this does not help my horny brain right now, and I need to focus on the new pieces of information. This thing was troublesome. Extremely troublesome. It seemed that the previous village's governor, who was offed by Yuri's gang, had been secretly working with the church for the past 2 years without notifying anyone else. They found a vein in the mountains, and they have been slowly chipping at it, gathering CC up and slowly selling them away. Their stash was as full as we found it, because it took a lot of work to find a buyer, and they had to be careful. Very careful. If I didn't deal with this carefully, this could be bad. So, any rewards, some extra. You can knock me up, I will give you an heir. I will pass, I answered before Sasha could. You brought me trouble, not joy, with this discovery. I groaned heavily. I'm up for a spanking too. I am hungry for some quality fun time besides gutting some poor fucker. She grinned, and I could swear her eyes were glittering with delight. I will reward you if you go and work with Oleg and begin openly arresting the remaining nobles, I said in a firm voice, putting the papers down and looking directly at her. Only kill those who resist. Their heads need to be intact because I will need them for later. Roger, that is why you called us here. Yeah, Oleg is waiting for you. Follow his orders. Can you do that or not? Woof. I was watching her wiggle her butt towards me while leaving, and I couldn't help but shake my head, trying to throw out the evil and perverted thoughts. I can do it better, Sasha murmured, which finally made me chuckle. For sure. Haha, this news really took a dump on my dinner table. What will we do now? She asked, feeling nervous as she didn't want to be discovered by the Empire. I already had a talk with my parents. Father has mobilized our army and is closing down the border crossings. We will conduct a raid on all the nobles and arrest them one by one. That will... It's not the end, I continued, raising a hand to halt her thoughts. I determined to be proactive. I planned to sacrifice Yuri and her gang, but now I am thinking otherwise. They are proving to be useful, so I will retrain them to be my knife in the dark. I don't know if they can be trained. I will just need to keep Yuri in check, and she will deal with her goons. Working with Oleg is the first test. If they fail, I instructed him to kill them all. But I need a group for my dirty work. One that I can deny any connection to if they are caught. Anyway, back to the problem at hand. We will capture the priests too, and bring everyone to the capital. Of course, those who are in the know of why, their head figures, well, only their heads will come with us. So that the Empire doesn't come and do it themselves. Are you going to use this against your uncle too? You do learn quick. I grinned, giving her a kiss, making her smile happily. Yep. They wouldn't believe it could have been done without a proper noble's help. Mother is already on her way to visit Elliot in secret. They will plant evidence in my pig of an uncle's treasury and also into those nobles' ledgers who are firm supporters of him. Then we will let the Empire clean house and reward us for being good puppies. If they believe our story, I will be persuasive. I laughed, but yes, that was an unknown factor waiting to be seen. And you will need to hide the fact that there is a mine here. Yes, that is why the top figures will have to be dead, and only their heads will come with us. I nodded heavily. We will make it so that my uncle is the mastermind, sourcing CC and making a big profit for himself. This also means when we go to the capital city, we are bringing along all the CC we have. We need to show our loyalty to the Empire. This is a risky move, but I think pulling it off will ensure that they don't bother us in the foreseeable future. Why not just work with the church? Sasha, my dear, I never expected you to ask something like this. I grinned, knowing she hated them. I am not unreasonable. She pouted cutely, making me tickle her and pull her into my lap. I won't work with them because that would make me an accomplice, and if things go down, I would be easily blackmailed. No. I will pretend to be the most loyal subject and make sure this backwater region remains out of the focus of the big and scary Empire. At least until we can defend ourselves. Chapter 33. Yuri's Story. Traveling to the Empire's capital city would be long and exhausting. I knew that, and my estimations told me that I would probably miss a good chunk of the year, so I ensured everyone had their missions and tasks delegated while I was gone. When I returned, I made it clear what I wanted to see finished and left everything to my mother and Sasha. Take care, Sasha murmured, standing next to my carriage when I was about to board it. I know you want to come, But what if they discover your gift? I smiled at her, giving her a long kiss. I'll be back before you know it. Don't worry, I will satisfy him, echoed Yuri's loud voice from the side, sitting atop her horse. Humph. Don't knock up that crazy one, she whispered to me, almost making me choke on my saliva. I am sure she has some disease between her legs. Well, my dear Sasha, your jealousy is something else. I didn't wait any longer, as it would be a tiresome trek anyway, so it was time to move out instead of further delaying it. First, we would visit my uncle's place, and Elliot would join us. At least on paper, we will conduct an official visit to the capital, all because of some new trading rights. That is what my Uncle Piggy would be told. It was a half-truth, as our cargo would be the head's and his life. Not that he would want to come, as leaving his castle is already a strain on his great figure. Your bandits were surprisingly obedient. Father chuckled, sitting at the opposite side of me, taking up the two-seater, looking out the window, watching Yuri ride her horse along with Oleg. Following all the orders of the soldiers, hey, I didn't think it would be possible. I was also surprised, but it shows they are trainable. Vicious and bloodthirsty, but controllable. As long as I know what Yuri wants. She is a sick woman, but that makes it interesting. Those scars on her show remarkable will to survive and continue living despite her appeal being destroyed. Geez, you are ruthless, Dad. Anyway, make her dress up properly when getting to the capital. There are laws in place that dictate how much skin she can show. Really now? I asked, as it was my first time hearing about it. Nothing serious, but a long dress or skirt is preferable. Bare shoulders are allowed, but the way she flaunts her almost naked torso would be thrown into a pillory, naked, and offered for public use. What? I choked, taking a sip from my flask filled with fruit wine. You mean there is a dress code which, if breached, the offender is punished by public indecency? What is this? Nero's laws? No, Emperor Nero ruled further back. His most famous law that is still remembered is that you can't marry within the family for more than 2 generations. Emperor Usborne made the public shaming law some 200 years ago. He loved watching it happen. Since then, it remained in effect. What the fuck? You see, old laws established by the other rulers are rarely revoked or changed. Maybe they get slowly forgotten about, but changing it goes against the image of the empire. Our monarchs are chosen because they are the best of us. Their bloodline contains the righteousness of gods, so their decisions can't be wrong or questioned. That is how it is. Well, going by their church, the righteousness doesn't last long, eh? I groaned, shaking my head. The massacre that happened a few days ago was surprising. When we confronted the local church, they were fighting viciously to escape, even killing multiple innocents, trying to use them as hostages or meat shields. It was a total shit show, so we left none alive. By the end of it, their headless corpses were dragged away by the ordinary people being paraded around the town. The church's brutal act quickly turned everyone against them, so at least I don't need to find excuses for why we did what we did. We exchanged letters with Elliot. After a brief silence, Father added, "He will bring the evidence that supports us. The little bastard is really crafty. Your mother said his forgeries would fool even her." "Is he a bastard as in bastard or?" I asked, ready for some juicy gossip, but I was disappointed. "Nah, he is all right. I just like calling him that. Anyway, if everything goes smoothly, you will be named the new ruler of our region, and I can finally relax." "Huh?" "Duh." He laughed, taking out his own flask and swinging it hard. "Everything will be your achievement. I will step down and you will take over. Don't worry, I will live in the castle with your mother, beating back beasts in the winter and fucking like bunnies. It will be like when we married." "Why am I not surprised?" I moaned softly, rubbing my face, but it wasn't like I wasn't doing that already. No wonder they were content with letting me do what I wanted. They were enjoying their early retirement. "Bwahaha, you will do fine. You are already doing it." Our little caravan was an interesting sight throughout the journey, but it kept most people away when they saw my family's flags. It was a simple but recognizable symbol, as it was the image of a white rook before a black mountain, the identifying mark of the frontier region. Our journey went through the middle regions of Ishilia, a very flat land dotted with nothing but thousands of square kilometers of farmland. I thought this whole world was nothing but wheat fields while passing through. What is the long face for, my dear? Want me to suck you off? Yuri asked, riding next to me. Just bored, nothing more. I answered, not wanting to entertain her offer because it sounded way better than looking at another wheat field. I expected more, but damn, this was just as boring as watching paint dry. Let's do it on the back of the horses. I sit in your lap and we start galloping. We can fuck by matching the rhythm. Why are you so horny all the time? I asked, looking at her with one eye. I was now questioning if it was a good idea to borrow a horse from one of the soldiers and decide to change up the monotone journey a little. Because I am also bored. So are my girls. At least they can have fun with the guys when we make camp. What? I chortled, looking around, but it made sense. And you are doing nothing. Are you pulling my leg or something? I am keeping myself for you. Yeah, sure. If I lie, fuck one of my eyes out, she said forcibly, and I was surprised by how serious she was. I can't risk it, my young baby daddy. Stop calling me weird names. It's the truth. If some other dick-wielding blabberfuck makes me pregnant, how am I supposed to bag my princess status? To hell with me if I risk that. I am not fucking around here, literally. You take this extra seriously, aren't you? I shrugged, sighing again. Of course. I learned quick enough that power is everything. My sweet prince, you are my ticket to the seat of ultimate power. Are you seeing me as a vibrator? I don't know what that is. What does it vibrate? Sounds fun. Whatever. I waved a hand, not wanting to get into it. Were you always like this? Pretty much. Only I was more put together. I still had both of my breasts until I turned 13. Then one was mangled so much in a fight it had to go. What type of fight? I asked, curious about her past. Life or death. Most of my battles were that. She explained it without issues, telling me everything without wincing or looking hurt. I was sold away early. My first memories are about being railed in a cheap brothel. But before I could even say the word, she waved her hand. Nah, it happens. I don't care because I made my own fortune. By the time I was 10, I had 7 kills under my belt, and I robbed the fuckers blind. It was easy to get into their bed as little bitch. Good sex, and I slit their throats while doing it. They never suspected a thing. And then I just had to leave with the money. You do realize that this makes me more reluctant to get naked with you? Don't worry, my prince, she laughed. I wouldn't hurt my ticket to a good life. No wonder you are this wicked shit. You have been disfigured in the head. I'm liking it like this. She countered me with a hearty laugh. I am me, pure and undiluted passion. I wear no fake masks and say no honeyed words because I am what I show. Have a problem with it? Too bad. Ahaha. How did you collect the rest of the girls? I asked before she would go on another tangent. Trained them myself. The first of my partners is no longer alive, but she accompanied me to a guy to serve him, and when I offed the old prick. She got hooked on it there and then. We did multiple heists together, and it was awesome. Later on, we gathered more girls, and well, here we are. What happened to her? Blown up. We had a botched run-in with a mage. We realized it too late, and when she struck down while riding the guy, an energy field blocked her swing and blew off her torso. Instant death. Luckily, he thought it was her idea, and I could play it off as a scared little girl. Wait. I almost yelled out, and Yuri just shrugged. It was a quick death. It was always a possibility in this type of work. She began speaking, rolling her eyes. What energy field are you talking about? Oh? That? It took her a while to continue, recollecting her memories. Yeah, I think it was the necklace he was wearing. It lit up before turning into dust. It blocked the strike, and the rebounding force tore Umi apart like a paper doll. Was it CC? I asked, not really expecting an answer. It could have been. I don't remember too many minute details. My mind was focused on playing the crying, terrified little girl persona to not get killed. Are you sure it was a mage? Yep, he used a long incantation afterward, cleaning up the mess with a spell. It was the first time I saw magic. It was pretty awesome. But I wanted to avoid running into another one, so we moved to your region. I guessed that in a backward place, there were easier targets. It had to be a one-time use artifact, I whispered, already thinking about multiple possibilities. So they have artifacts developed. One-time use trinkets, maybe even weapons. I guess I won't really be able to find out more about them, not even in the capital city. But that doesn't mean I won't try. Chapter 34. Luna. While traveling forward, my mind was stuck on thinking about the usage of CC. So techniques that gave them different properties and made use of them were already developed. My next question was, how far did they go with it? What could I do with them? How will I get my hands on some samples to reverse engineer it? I discussed this with my uncle too while traveling, having exciting debates with him throughout the nights. The perfect reason to ignore Yuri, who was trying to rape me. No, I'm not joking. One night I woke up to her sneaking into my tent, all naked, trying to tie me up. It was the harshest beatdown my guards received from Oleg and me. Especially from my general, because I made him responsible for failing to guard me, and he took it to heart. Good, because Yuri is a wild card, and what if she decides that she wants to relive her old habits? I had a feeling that it all happened with my father's blessing, because I had seen him laugh, turning his back to me. We are getting close, my lord. It was Oleg's voice that disrupted my thoughts, and he was talking to my father. Leaning out of the carriage, I could see a massive city in the distance. It was right in the middle of a flat field, and a circle of 30-meter-high walls surrounded its central part. Before that monstrosity, I could see a secondary city and then a circular moat. No, it wasn't a moat. That was a river. I was sure it wasn't natural, as it was a perfect circle where the city stood while flowing from the north and heading down south. I know of no river that does a roundabout by itself. From the land, 9 bridges connected to the secondary circle, and we were on a stone road heading towards one of them. Now, this is what I expected, I whispered, as this was the type of city I imagined when I realized I had been granted a new life. It is unique, Father laughed, patting my shoulder. This city has never been conquered, and has been standing here for thousands of years. At least that is the legend. Yeah, sure, Yuri scoffed, her eyes more interested in the passing-by caravans, and I knew she wanted to rob them. Although her scarred body was now hiding behind standard leather armor, I could see her fingers twitching on her horse's rein. The outer city is where 60% of the population is concentrated. Father continued explaining, the 9 bridges are all numbered and lead to different regions of the Empire of Ishilia. Our first stop will be at the foot of the 9th bridge. They will be examining our identities, and until they are confirmed, be mindful. I am a Viscount, but that means nothing here. I know. I don't, Yuri added, and Father looked at me, telling me with his eyes that she would be my responsibility. Come here. No, I will go there. I grunted and climbed out of the carriage window, quickly hopping onto her horse and hugging her from behind. Oh, are we finally fucking? No, I answered, holding her waist down as she was already leaning forward, ready to press her bottom against my crotch. I am here to tell you what you need to know, and you will listen to me. I am saying it directly into your ear, so you can't say you didn't hear it. Tisk, go on, she grunted, sitting back properly. First, you and Oleg are my personal guards. Only speak when I permit it. Ha! Are you playing the role of the owner of my leash? I am your owner, I replied coldly, and I could see her shiver a little. Should I choke you out again? Yeah, that made me come so hard. When I heard what she said, somehow, I didn't doubt Yuri. Listen to me. I raised my voice before she went into a degenerate ranting once again. We are a Viscount. Above us here are still counts, who rule the neighboring land, and earls who oversee certain parts of the city. They are more or less equivalent here, but they are above us. Even if an earl here has as much land under him as a village in our region, he is still above me in rank. Okay, don't piss off my boss's boss. Got it. Not just that. There are still the ranks of Marquess and Duke above them. Piss off the wrong people, and I will toss you to the wolves. Want to be powerful? Yeah, she nodded, grinding her crotch against the saddle. Powerful enough to piss on the current emperor's head. Oh, fuck yeah, she moaned even louder, shuddering. Then follow every word I say while here, and you can get closer to that power. Screw this up, and I abandon you without fucking you once. Got it? Geez, you know how to speak to a woman. I'm wet. No, you are fucking crazy. I shrugged, turning her head away as she wanted to kiss, or bite my face. I couldn't really tell. Focus on the road, got it? Yeah, my master. Ah, shit. Talk to me like this next time too. If you spark my fantasies this hard, I will get pregnant from your voice alone. Son? Hmm. I turned towards the carriage, seeing my father flash a thumbs up at me. Keep her in line just like that. Don't worry, a few concubines are normal for an emperor. Thanks, Daddy, Yuri cheerfully shouted back at him while I couldn't help but shrug. This was building up to be a disaster. The stop at the bridge went smoother than I first expected. The structure itself was around 20 or 30 meters wide and had two lanes, separated in the middle by a waist-height wall. The left one was for the regular people and merchants to use, coming and going in great quantity, while the right side was for nobles. Thanks to this, we didn't have to wait for long. A handful of soldiers appeared at a moment's notice and conducted the inspection of our identities from a thick codex. Watching their armor, it was clean, new-looking. It consisted of black cloth undergarments with shiny silver plates strapped to their arms, chest, and legs, giving the feeling of a knight, but not one that would be useful in battle, mainly because these were highly decorated and way thinner than they should have been, with golden accents and the image of a sun plastered everywhere on it. You don't use armor like this for battle, not when the soldier would drag it through mud and guts. Show-offs, I murmured as silently as I could, but Yuri next to me clearly heard it because she let out a small chuckle. Luckily, it didn't bother anyone, and after Father proved who we were, including my uncle, before we were let into the city, my follow-up surprise came from being assigned a whole courtyard to stay in, with a fully supplied stable and maids waiting for us. It wasn't as big as my newly built palace, but it was still impressive. At least being a noble had its advantages. While we entered, I tried scanning the outer city, and I could tell that most buildings here were made out of stone, and people were well dressed. Most important of all, nothing smelled like piss and shit, which meant the frontier region was just that. A shithole. Well, not anymore. Huh, I will trump this city with mine. What are you grinning for? Yuri asked, but before she could poke my sides, Oleg grabbed her wrist with full force, making her moan. You are gonna break my wrist, big guy. How will I jack off my prince then? Don't touch him. I wasn't in the mood to interact with the two, so I left them there and began exploring our temporary home. Since my scolding, Oleg has become hypersensitive. The best course of action was to let him cool down. As for Yuri, probably euthanasia would be the only solution. As nobles, my father, my uncle, and I had a different wing to ourselves in the mansion that reminded me of a Renaissance-era chateau. My room was on the first floor, and opening its heavy, thick wooden door greeted me with a lovely view. It was pretty spacious, having my own huge bed, a separate garden that was only accessible through my room, and a fireplace with a wide couch before it. And right on it slept a young girl, a teenager. She was totally out and defenseless, and she was wearing maid clothing on top of it. Walking closer, I got a better view as she was lying on her back, a half grin on her face, drooling a little. A gift for the nobles? I asked myself, examining her heart-shaped face that was ripe for placing it between my palms and mushing it a little. Damn, she was cute. Like a little kitten. She was compact. That was the best way to describe her, as she wasn't tall, nor was she thick. But she wasn't as thin as Sasha when I first met her. Although I couldn't really tell her 3 sizes, not with this many clothes on. Damn it. Yuri's effect has been poisoning my mind. While I was leaning over her, it seemed my presence disturbed her sleep because it made her wake up and open her mismatched eyes. Oh, we both said, but hers was frightened while mine was amused. Her left eye was green as a polished emerald, while her right eye was the deepest amethyst I have ever seen. A unique beauty. Good morning, sleepyhead. Hiya. With a scream, she scrambled to her feet, climbed over the couch, and fell onto her head, giving me a perfect look at her blue striped panties. This city has better clothing stores and a proper fashion sense. Unlike mine, huh? I already guessed so because of how the people were dressing here. Now I felt like a hillbilly coming to town. My home was centuries behind the capital city. Is this a joke? Are you okay? With a chuckle, I walked over, helping her up, fixing her clothes and messy, long black hair while using the occasion to get a quick, subtle feel. She was soft. Yes, I was cleaning the room and… Who are you? My name is Leon, and I am here on official business with my family. Which family? She asked, looking confused, trying to figure it out. But I looked out of place with my red hair. Since coming here, I have seen nobody else having it. My father is Kalash, Lion of the Frontier. Hiya! The barbarians? Ah! I couldn't help but stand still, feeling my eyelids twitch, watching her get teary-eyed and begin trembling. What she did was probably worthy of flogging. Name? I asked, trying to sound unbothered, but now I finally had a first-hand experience of what the others think about my home, and it made me sound irritated. Because I was. Luna, my lord, she answered, bowing with elegance. I won't bother. She wanted to leave, but I reached out with a hand, stopping her physically. Good, I need a personal maid who follows me around and does what I say while staying here. I will notify the… Thank you for volunteering, Luna. I didn't. She sounded like she was on the verge of a mental breakdown, but I wasn't budging. You did. Just right now, so Luna. I smiled and probably looked like some kind of cliché evil noble from a soap opera. Please, show me around the place. Chapter 35, Mugs Filled. Who's the little foo… Did I permit you to speak? I asked before Yuri had a chance to finish the sentence. Thought so. She is Luna, a maid who volunteered to show us around. Greetings. She curtsied, looking shy and reserved, but I knew that she was probably crying in her head. They are my personal guards, Yuri and Oleg. You can ignore most of the things Yuri says as she is sick in the head. I am not, she answered, but after I gave her a doubtful look, she simply shrugged her shoulders. Whatever. You're the boss. Leon. My father's shout reached me, and as I looked around, I saw him hanging out from one of the windows on the first floor. Heading out. That was my plan. I want to look around the city a little. Don't stray far. We may be insignificant, but that doesn't mean some other nobles wouldn't want to use us in some idiotic ploy. We are only staying for a few days. Don't stir shit up for your old man. The meeting will happen tomorrow, the first thing in the morning. Getting an appointment with the Empress herself was hard, so I want no problems. No worries, Dad, I got it. I am not worried about you. Whatever. We will go over most things with your uncle, and we will have a meeting after dinner. Be back by then. Sure. You will have a meeting with the Empress? Luna asked, stuttering, feeling her legs wobble like jelly. Yeah, why? I asked, not getting her sudden dizziness and why her face had abruptly turned whiter than chalk. Meeting the Empress of Envy. I wouldn't dare do that, not even if I am a noble. Huh? We looked at each other before now surrounding Luna. What do you mean? You are really clueless, aren't you? Ha. Bah, come. She flinched, holding back her tongue and looking at me with pleading eyes. Can we go to a place where nobody can listen in? I don't want to end up without my head, please. This sounds juicy, Yuri grinned, licking her lips, and I couldn't help but agree. I'm hungry. Luna, take us to a place you think is fine, and we will sit down, chat, and have a fulfilling lunch. I have no money, she whispered, which was a surprise. I thought she would catch on quicker. I will pay. Really? It was as if a switch had been flipped. She looked much more eager and ready, the shaking evaporating at once, her legs standing firm and travel-ready. Okay, this isn't a prank, yes? No. I answered seriously and honestly. We are not barbarians. That made her blush and fall silent, looking at the ground, drawing circles with her toes. Now that we have established our first goal, let's go. I am interested in what you can tell us. Maids are nice, Yuri grinned, watching her from behind as we began walking. They can get into nobles' beds and gain some juicy information. I am not that kind of a maid, Luna protested, looking over her shoulder, her face turning red like an apple. Those types of maids always say the same. Yuri countered, but then I interrupted them. I still needed Luna to spill the beans. The best cause for this was being on her good side. Just look at her walking, her speech pattern, and how she carries herself. She is a proper maid, and you are a street kid, Yuri. Surprisingly, she didn't shoot back, and watching her eyes, I saw she quickly caught on to what I was doing, playing along. I should remind myself that although she acts crazy, she has sharp senses and a quick mind, or she wouldn't have lived this long. My compliments quickly did their job as Luna walked much more happily next to us, feeling proud, leading us to only a street away from our mansion, right to a two-story restaurant. Mugs filled, Oleg murmured, reading the sign above the front door as we walked in. Filled mugs? Weird. They have been here for more than 100 years, Luna explained proudly, but I wasn't really listening. On the way here, I was inspecting the roads and buildings, all made out of stone and bricks. There was not one that was made out of wood or any much easier material to get and work with. The way the city was built was a minimum of 5 or 6 centuries away from what was present in either our territory or my uncle's region. Not to mention, I didn't see any mines nearby, so all of it had to be transported here from elsewhere. This also meant that the technology that the Empire was sitting on was way more advanced than I first thought about. I just never guessed that there could be this much of a difference between regions within the same empire. Is he okay? Luna asked, and her question knocked me back to reality. He is fine. When my boss's mind gets ticking, he goes into this ultra-focused mode. Then why are you squeezing my thighs? I asked Yuri, who quickly withdrew her hands with a grin, not explaining anything, making Oleg snort and Luna blush. Let's switch, my general suggested, but we were already seated at a private booth on the second floor, reserved only for nobles. Leave it. I shrugged, looking around, examining the empty tables as right now we were the only ones up here. You can't turn a wolf into a sheep anyway. Woof. You are weird, Luna whispered, making me look at her. She looked even tinier, with Oleg sitting next to her. Before I could question her, the waitress came up, wearing an article of red and white clothing with an apron, reminding me of how waitresses used to dress in old movies. At least, in my old life, that is. She was young, a teenager maybe, and clearly nervous, but also happy that she could serve nobles. Was she expecting tips? Is tipping a thing here? Damn, I truly felt like a country boy coming to the big city for the first time. In the end, I let Luna order for all of us, and going by the names of the dishes, I was sure we would get some chicken and beef with either rice or potatoes. I wasn't sure and couldn't deduce it from the names alone. While the dishes were being prepared, the young waitress suggested we order drinks, and I was expecting the usual. Oleg and Yuri didn't hesitate to call for some wine, while Luna only asked for water. Me? I was feeling mischievous. Coffee. Most certainly, she smiled, bowing and hurrying away, leaving me awestruck. Coffee? The others asked, looking at me, and they were just as dumbfounded. I didn't know it would work, I said honestly before shaking my head. I will need to get me some for home. I almost added that I was missing the taste of a good coffee, but managed to hold the last part in. I didn't know about any nobles who drink coffee. It is the ordinary people's drink. It seemed Luna rarely could hold in her thoughts, speaking them out loud again, making Yuri nod. Yeah, and soldiers, they say it is the workers' and slaves' drink. It keeps them functioning longer. Bullshit, I scoffed, now feeling angry. It is the best drink, period. Oleg, no, I don't care what you want to say. Coffee is the best. I didn't try to say anything, he murmured, glancing away, looking troubled. Okay, while we wait, we can have a little chit-chat. So, Luna, please explain, I said hurriedly, ending the conversation. Well, this place is… Don't play dumb. I chuckled, seeing her try to divert the topic. Empress of Envy, why? Please don't say it out loud. It is not something you want others to hear. She pleaded, looking around, but luckily the waitress hadn't returned yet. She ascended the throne 12 years ago, and since then, they say whenever she found something she liked, it simply disappeared, taken away and placed into her private collection. I know that there have been some laws made that prohibit other nobles from wearing certain colors, like purple, or black, or crimson. Only the royal family is allowed to appear at events, donning those colors. Put. I could barely hold back my laughter after hearing it. It isn't funny, Luna complained, pouting, turning silent while our drinks arrived. It is. It is precisely what I imagined that some self-centered noble would do. I countered, lifting up my mug and enjoying the aroma I had subconsciously missed for all these years. Oh yes, this needs to be imported, like, immediately. They say people who meet with her try to look mundane, so she doesn't find something interesting about them and takes it away. There were rumors that... She stopped momentarily, looking around twice before whispering, "Even people have gone missing." Spooky, but I wouldn't worry. We are here to report, and our family is tasked with guarding the frontier. I don't think our barbarian lineage has anything worthy of an empress, hmm? That's true. She nodded, agreeing without hesitation before her mind realized what she had done, turning white and teary-eyed. Barbarian? Oleg scoffed, his fingers squeezing the metal mug in his hand, leaving imprints on it. What a brave observation. Have you ever visited the frontier? No, Luna answered, looking up at Oleg, gulping multiple times, shaking like a lonely leaf in the wind. I bet she never even left the city, Yuri added, leaning back in her chair, enjoying her wine. Yes. That makes me curious, I interrupted them. What is your background? I am just a maid. Nobody important. Explain. I pressed on, resting my chin on my crossed fingers. I can learn it in multiple ways. I just want it from the source first. How? Well, I am Luna Gottfried. My family were the servants of Earl Sigismund, but that line died out 40 years ago, so since then we have been dwindling in reputation and numbers. Families that lose their noble backing usually fall further and further down if they don't find a new family to serve. I just finished my training, and this was my first job, taking care of an empty mansion. Ooh, I didn't know guests were coming. Why don't you strike out to do something else? A new profession? I asked, honestly curious about her situation. Do what? She moaned, lowering her head in dejection. You don't know what it is like here, huh? It is all about background, prestige, rank. Families like mine have no chance to rise or change. We have been servants since we wrote memoirs within my family hundreds of years ago, and we will die out as one. Earl Sigismund's enemies are still present, and anybody taking us in would also say they are the late Earl's supporters. I thought they died out, Yuri asked, baffled, but Luna just sighed again. That doesn't matter, not for nobles. Lucky me and my birth, I laughed, looking towards the stairs, seeing our food arrive. I wouldn't want to live here. Luna didn't really get that, but that's fine. I didn't try to explain it either. Instead, I focused on the nice roasted chicken and mashed potatoes. I need to bring back some recipes. They know how to cook. I was just about to finish my meal, enjoying the last bites of food, when loud noises interrupted it. Looking at the stairs, I saw a group of young men coming up, wearing flashy blue, gold, orange, and green-colored silk clothes. They were like a clown troupe, stinking from cheap cologne. Are those silk pants? I moaned, holding my head, rubbing my temple, not believing my darned luck. My lord? Oleg asked, not getting me, and neither did the two girls at our table. Of course they are. Of course there are silk pants here. Why wouldn't there be? I continued ignoring them, praying for fate not to do it, but of course it wasn't listening. Or it was and was laughing behind my back. Who's the weird guy? One of them laughed like a hyena as they approached our table. Of course, they are approaching me. Why the fuck wouldn't they? Chapter 36. Silk Pants. Leave it to me, I whispered, telling Oleg and Yuri to stay put. There was not really time to start a conflict, not when we can easily screw ourselves over. I tried ignoring the clowns as they approached us, stopping next to our table, but it was evident that wouldn't work. Are you really a noble? Because you are dressed like some horseshit shoveler. The kid in the green clothes chuckled, scanning me with mocking eyes. Well, I answered after wiping my mouth, glancing at his fair expression, his gelled back blonde hair finally settling down on his blue eyes. I am from the frontier. It was interesting to see their expressions change for a minute, looking at each other before the same guy continued. No wonder, barbarians have no taste in clothes. It is surprising they know how to dress up. I thought they all wore animal skins and slept in caves. The one in blue chimed in, laughing like a crow with a sore throat. True, I answered calmly, no longer looking at them, watching Oleg instead, who was waiting for a signal to knock their teeth out. We do wear animal skins, and I got my wife by smashing her over the head with a stick. It's the best unga bunga I've had in a while. Is that her? They cackled, pointing at Yuri. The wild man married a fucking dreg from the border region. They do have feral tastes. Thightest pussy I have ever tasted, I added with a chuckle, standing up and nodding at the others that we should leave. Luna was the first to follow my order, not even registering my words, wanting nothing more than to disappear and run away. When Oleg stood up, they did flinch as he was bigger than the four idiots put together. However, their sudden doubts didn't last longer than their brain remembering they were nobles in the capital city. Is it now? They blocked our way, now looking at Yuri, who was smiling amicably, surprisingly well-mannered and silent. Wait, is she now deciding to follow my order and remain muted until I say so? Isn't it customary to bring presents when coming to visit? We would like to taste the beauty of a faraway land. I doubt it. Come on, we are in the same echelon, aren't we? The one in the green clothes laughed, hugging my shoulders as if we were long-lost pals. Let's have some fun. We wouldn't break her. At first, I remained silent, not because I lost my voice, but because their cologne smelled like a public toilet from up close. Did they use some cheap shit to mask the fact they were not bathing regularly? Anyway, I wasn't really interested in what they wanted to do. Sure, I answered readily, shocking not just them but Oleg and Luna too. Ha! Finally, Yuri couldn't hold it back and laughed a little, but she quickly forced it down, standing there trying not to grin. Strip, I ordered, looking at her, which made her shudder, beginning to quickly throw down her top clothes, revealing her scarred body without any shame. What the fuck? The silk pants cried out in tandem, reeling a little, backing away, while I glanced at them, holding up my hand at Yuri to stop. Is there a problem? I asked, looking confused, tilting my head a little. Where I come from, we like it rough. I did use her a bit hard, I admit, biting off one of her breasts. But she is just a meat to fuck, so if she expires, I will get a new one. Is it really that weird? You city folk are too soft. Husband? Yuri chimed in with an excited voice, and I could hear it in her breathing that she was totally fired up. I hope they can hurt me satisfactorily. I never had so many strong men trying to rend me to a horrid spectacle. I wanted to ask why she was using words I guessed she didn't even know the meaning of. But oh well. The frightened and disgusted faces of these silk pants were satisfying enough. Don't worry, I will be watching. If they don't make you scream, I will step in and show them how it is done. I will go and prepare the ropes, the hooks, and the heated iron. The what? They asked, their voice going an octave higher, watching me with revulsion. The accessories for good sex, of course, I answered, looking at them as if they asked the dumbest question possible. Pain is an essential part of pleasure, so she will also inflict it on us. It makes it more spicier. Let's go. Now I am excited. I think that was what broke their bravery as they began backing out without giving a correct explanation as to why they were hurrying out of the restaurant. Barbarian, Luna murmured, looking pityingly at Yuri, who was heaving like a dog in heat. I was lying, I added, feeling compelled to say it as Luna's gaze was weird. No, we do that. We do that for real. Come, my husband, fuck me here and now. You can choke me out. Again. No, and start dressing up, I groaned. And it was Oleg who had to forcefully put the clothes back on Yuri, who acted more like a kid with massive tantrum issues than a killer bandit leader. It was just a lie, Luna asked again, her eyes going back and forth between us, and I couldn't read her thoughts. Was she disgusted, afraid, disappointed? Her mismatched eyes were displaying a way too varied range of emotions. Duh, I told you she isn't completely normal in the head. Anyway, the problem was averted. Let's go. I still want you to lead us around the city a little. I want to see the parts you think are interesting. But if they retell it, a rumor and your reputation, and, Luna stuttered, trying to comprehend it. It would matter if I cared about it. But I don't. So let's go. It's time to move on. I watched Luna lead us back down, her brain trying to make sense of what just happened while I paid, giving a little tip. I could sense the nervousness in our little waitress and in the owner as they expected a fight to break out. It could have easily made it so their lives were over, along with their business. Damn! I moaned after we were out, patting my shrunken coin purse on my waist. I didn't know the city would be this expensive. Half of my coins are gone from lunch. What's wrong with this place? Were we scammed? I complained, making Luna blush, my ranting interrupted by Yuri, who was still breathing heavily. I can rob us some fools. Ah, let's find those idiots and kill them. Their clothes would sell for sure. What? Luna yelled like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. No killing. I knocked on Yuri's head, which made her moan, plus you would ruin the silk. And with bloody torn fabric, you could not make any profit, idiot. Then just kill them. Go home and masturbate or something. I sighed, rubbing my forehead, knowing now she wouldn't shut up for the time being. Let's go. Eh? Instead of standing still on the street, I stepped behind Luna, holding her shoulders and pushing her forward so we could explore the nearby streets. Did I come late? I asked, coming into the study way after sundown, wearing a fresh set of clothes. A bit, but not much. Father nodded, sitting on a couch with my uncle, drinking wine. How's the city? Fine. I shrugged, not wanting to go into the details. I got a good look at the architecture, and I presently felt confident in my conclusion that they were built with such precision they rivaled the world in my previous life. I was proud of giving my people back home the option to bathe in their homes. Yet here I was, seeing drinking fountains at every corner. Even this mansion had a bathroom and flushable toilets. Yes, flushable toilets. Damn. What's the problem? Something happened? Father asked, but I just sighed again, smiling at him. No, nothing like that. I am just surprised by the difference between the regions. I feel like I traveled forward in time. This city is special. You can't compare it to other places. Elliot chuckled, trying to lift my spirits. Maybe. Also, I think I started spreading another weird rumor about ourselves, Father. Sorry about that. Who cares? He chuckled, giving me a cup of wine. This city is far away from us, so don't stress about it. Rumors are what makes this city tick, so there would be some even if you did nothing. My uncle added before turning a bit more serious. Listen, Leon, tomorrow will be important. I am fully aware of that. I have been hearing it since coming near the city. First, let's go through the protocol, Elliot continued without addressing my complaint. We will arrive in time. Only the three of us will enter the palace, and we will wait silently until we are called. When entering, you can't look the Empress in the eye, not until you are given permission to do so. Noted. I nodded. You already told me this. Stay in a slight bow and speak when spoken to. Until Father says what he must, and I am officially named his successor, I am a nobody who should be thankful to be in the presence of the Empress. Believe it or not, I can play the little ant when I must. I won't cause problems, not when what I am doing behind the scenes is worthy of losing my head. Exactly. Elliot pressed on, looking into my eyes. We will present our findings, the evidence, and wait for her verdict. After the meeting, if everything went smoothly, Father interjected, continuing my uncle's thoughts, we will return here, pack up and leave. Right away. Now that was a surprise. The city is dangerous, so yes. The longer we stay, the higher the chance we will be dragged into some scheme and sacrificed for a cause we have nothing to do with. A bit disappointing, but duly noted. Then I will go to sleep early and wake up even earlier. I chuckled, standing up before being reminded of what I wanted to mention. What would happen if I asked for the Gottfried family to be assigned under me? Who? They asked simultaneously, looking at me seriously as I sat back down, explaining everything. Well, a dead family like that wouldn't cause us many problems, Father murmured, scratching his chin. The problem would be the family itself. They wouldn't be able to refuse if they are officially signed under you, but they would feel it as an exile. Families that are born here are extremely prejudicious and would think that moving out the city is discarding them to the pigs. Elliot added, holding a slight smile on his face. I was thinking about it and realized that I would need a trained, proper family back home who could help me keep the place clean and organized. Secretaries make it much more easy to keep track of things. Secret tallies? Father asked, making me chuckle and explain quickly that I meant a capable administering body. I see. No guarantees, son, But there is a chance that when you get appointed as the new lord of the frontier, you get to ask for something. There is a custom where new nobles get something from the empire so they don't forget which hand feeds them. But don't get hopeful, Elliot warned me. Right now, with Envy herself on the throne, that thing may be an event of the past. Chapter 37, Royal Meeting. I did what I said I would do and woke up before the sun had a chance to peek above the horizon. After a quick shower, I put on the best dress I had, which was not made out of silk but still gave me the look of a noble, or more like some kind of governor of a Spanish colony in the 18th century. To my surprise, my father and uncle were both up and ready, so after a brief breakfast, we stepped out of the mansion and prepared to board a carriage that would take us into the middle of the city. That was when I heard it, a low, resounding echo of a horn coming from afar, making my insides vibrate. Looking up, I felt my jaw slowly drop as I saw a giant flying ship come from the west, heading straight to the inner circle. I couldn't see or hear anything else as I just watched it sail over us, getting bigger and bigger as it descended and made its landing. From the outside, it looked like a ship from a pirate movie I liked to watch as a kid. The only difference is that it flew through the air, its giant sails billowing above, while its underbelly was surrounded by a faint blue hue. I recognized it. That was the hue of mana. I couldn't see the magic circles, which were probably operating within its body, but I knew what that light meant. "We are lucky," my uncle whispered, patting me on the back, making me flinch, returning to reality. "That's Justice." "I guess that is the ship's name?" I asked, finally getting into the carriage as we began traveling forward. "Yes." "Father?" I turned towards him. "Did you ever see it before? I never read about it." "I saw it once." He nodded, letting out a nostalgic sigh. "But I was little. The Empire has 5 such ships, all of which are mobile military bases. The Justice, if I know it right, should be on the Eastern Front." "What I gathered," Elliot explained to us, "the East reached an agreement of a 2-year ceasefire. The ship has been called back for resupply and maintenance. Well, that is the official story." I knew that they wouldn't have any more information about it, not without ranks, so I slowly tuned their talking out. Instead, my eyes were drawn towards the inner city walls that were getting bigger and bigger. I saw as the sun finally rose high, illuminating the land, and I felt goosebumps growing all over my body just thinking about the ship's deep horn once again. I had to re-evaluate some things in my mind. I assumed the world was in a similar state of development in every corner of this Ishilia Empire. Evidently not. Some regions were left behind compared to others. I guess this happens when an empire focuses on gaining new territories instead of developing existing ones. Are they aiming to conquer the world? Sooner or later, they would hit a wall. Ignoring the growing problems and such profound differences within the same empire would do that. With how things were developing on my end, there was a high chance that I would be that wall. If that ever happens, I will need to get ready. I must develop measures against mages, a stronger army, and superior magic technology. If they have flying ships that they are happy to show to the public, there must be more hidden weapons, which are only seen on the battlefield. The fact that they even consider mortar to be a state secret and won't divulge it, holding architectural advancement as a weapon, was telling enough. This way, they could determine which region grows to which size, easily keeping places below a certain level. Divide and conquer. They held the reins firmly and dictated how parts of the empire grew, which in turn tells me that our domain is deliberately kept as a barbarian outback. I don't know how other territories are, but I can't go and travel the world. Time is of the essence, and I need to use it to the best of my abilities. From now on, I will have to look at the world as if it is much more advanced than my home and act accordingly. Stop! Turning towards the voice, I saw multiple heavily armored guards approaching the carriage. They were unlike the ones at the bridges, and I could see engraved magic circles on their pauldrons and on one of their shields. What for? I couldn't tell for sure, but they couldn't be witches and wizards. Maybe if a mage is nearby, they can boost their abilities. While I was thinking as to why they had them on their armor, the soldiers checked the carriage and our identities before letting us pass. Passing through the 10-meter-tall gate, I realized the wall wasn't just as tall as a high-rise building, but also just as massive. It was at least 15 meters wide, and I could see tunnels leading deeper inside its inner structure. This thing wasn't simply a wall, it was a fortress. Coming out of the other end, the road was no longer made of cobblestone. It was flat, smooth like marble. The houses were 3 stories tall at maximum, but all of them were their own villas, luxuriously decorated with statues and masterfully crafted dioramas. Anyone living here is a decision-maker in the empire. Father whispered to me, seeing me scan the buildings we were passing by, having family names written on their front gates with gold. You don't need to envy their homes. I do not, I answered with a smile. There are tasteful decorations, and then there is wasteful extravaganza. This is the latter. Buildings should be pleasing to look at and not cluttered with nonsense. There is a thing called sensory overload, when your eyes don't know what to look at, losing its focus. You have interesting ideas. Elliot chuckled, but soon his smile was gone, replaced with the nervousness he was trying to hide. I saw the same thing in my father for the first time, but I couldn't fault him. From what they told me, whatever the Empress wished for was granted. So who knows what she will think about our little story. But this also meant we had already won if we could persuade her. Arriving at the palace, it had its own courtyards, and yes, multiple of them. We parked at the front entrance, and after getting out of our carriage, a butler-like man, accompanied by more guards, was waiting for us. This time, we bowed and greeted him respectfully. Even though he was not a noble, the fact he served the royal family made him their extension. Disrespecting him was the same as doing to the Empress. The items had been investigated, and the supporting evidence looked through. The services of your regions are recorded, and the audience with the Empress will be granted shortly. Please follow me. While speaking, he only looked at us once. Most of the time, his eyes were looking past our faces or over our heads, continuing to ignore us in an arrogant, posh way. Of course, my thoughts remained hidden, making sure my face wouldn't betray me as we followed the man into the palace. The first room reminded me of a museum with giant paintings on the walls and shiny armored statues decorating the floor. We weren't there for long, as we were quickly led through multiple chambers into the throne room. We were the first to come and stop before the golden throne that was elevated from the ground by 4 rounds of concentric steps. We were silent, just like the guards who stood 3 steps behind us. They became the identical statues I had seen before, making me wonder if they were indeed that, or if they were also guards back there. If yes, then they blended in quite nicely. To not get bored quick, I let my eyes continue scanning the room as we made to wait for almost an hour. We couldn't step away, sit down, or even talk. We just stood there, silent, right until I heard a door open somewhere and heavy footsteps coming our way, followed by a pair of much sharper clankings. They were clearly high heels hitting the marble floor, but as per the order, I couldn't look up at her. But I could look at the floor and her legs. Without moving my head, my eyes darted towards my right, and I caught the bottom of her feet, right up to her ankle. She was wearing black high-heeled shoes with golden straps, and if the floors had been a bit more polished, I may have seen much more than that. I watched as she walked up to her throne, sitting down, shuffling around a little before speaking. I was informed of your discovery. Oh, her voice was a bit deeper than I expected. It was mature, with a hint of coldness accompanying it, and it made me think of Sasha. She was the complete opposite of her, going by the feeling alone, but there was an underlying similarity. She has to be a witch. I had no other explanation for why I felt such a strong urge to think about Sasha when hearing the Empress's voice, or was I missing her this much? That was also true. Which one of you is Elliot? It is me, Your Highness. I could hear the fear within my uncle's voice as he stepped forward, keeping in a bow, answering her questions, retelling the story once again. After that, it was my father's turn to do the same, and I was expecting my name to be called, but that didn't happen. The return of the resources was a satisfactory show of your loyalty. It is worthy of being rewarded. First, you will return with my decree. Elliot, you will present your brother's head and everyone working with him to me within 2 months. Then you will take over as the new Baron and ensure this thievery never happens again. Yes, Your Highness. Second Kalash. Yes, Father saluted, stepping forward, keeping his head bowed. I expected nothing less from one of my guarding beasts. Good job, your reward will be a year's worth of tithes. You won't have to pay it this year. Thank you, Your Highness. Now, she continued, not even acknowledging their thanks at all, her voice remaining calm and somewhat bored throughout the conversation. The other point you presented to me? Leon, step forth and look at me. Finally. I was waiting for this. When I was allowed to look up, I was surprised as the Empress was young-looking, maybe in her mid-20s. She wore a black attire that was more revealing than anything I saw in the city. The best I could describe it was that it was like some kind of modern black evening dress with deep cutouts that let her sides and legs show, especially the latter, as she crossed one over the other. Moving my eyes further up without pausing, I could scan her slim figure and relatively small breasts, quickly jumping over them to not offend her, settling on observing her face. She was beautiful. In my time, she would be a top model with her deep, ruby-red eyes and long black hair falling onto her bare shoulders. Even though her eyes were like fire, she looked at me with cold indifference, not even considering me worth talking to. At least, that is how I was feeling. Disgusting. Well, thanks. I did not expect her to say that straight to my face. Was I in trouble? Chapter 38. Stealing Knowledge. I didn't have anything to give as an answer, not that I could have in my position. I simply stood there, watching her calmly, waiting for her to continue or permit me to say anything. I hate how you look. There it was, she continued. Next time you visit me, shave your head. I don't want to see the color red on your head, ever again. I will look this over, as this is your first visit here. As you command. I bowed, remaining unperturbed, but deep inside I was laughing. What a weird, eccentric person. At least your ugly looks are paired with the correct personality. Raising her right hand, one of the armored guards walked forward, giving me a rolled parchment with the royal seal holding it together. From now on, you are the governor of the frontier. Be as productive as your father. That's it. She was about to stand up when my mouth opened and I decided to go for it. It was on the spur of the moment, but let's risk it. If I die, I die. Isn't there more to being appointed to be the new Viscount? The moment my words left my mouth, I felt everyone stiffening. I even heard my father's body move forward a little before freezing. I watched as the Empress settled back in her chair, tilting her head slightly and looking over me a second time. Your family will be presented with a list of free servant lineages to choose from and bring them back to the frontier. After a bit of pause, I was about to speak again, going against my own thoughts, but luckily it was her who spoke first. I heard a weird rumor of a barbarian mutilating his wife. Rumors tend to be that. Rumors. Not all of them are coincidental, and many are birthed from straight-up malicious intentions. That is true. I read you had a hand in discovering that your uncle stole my belongings. Young Viscount Leon? A small one, yes. I discovered the plot when touring my territory and responding to a bandit attack. Those nobles. Nobles? She laughed sharply, covering her lips with one hand. You call those dregs nobles? Ha! You frontier people do have a kind of humor, I will admit that. Ha! Well, it was best if I stopped speaking. It did feel like I stretched my luck to a snapping point. At least I can bring back a family to serve me, and I already have someone in mind. My goal was achieved, time to retreat. So be it. A bit of backbone is needed to lord over a savage place like that. She continued, surprising me that showed on my face, which in turn made her smile. I saw it in her eyes. She was enjoying my dumbfounded look. I will give you a personal reward. Ask me for something, but if it makes me angry, I will order you to be beheaded. I want to visit a library with books about magic. My answer was instant, said right when she finished her word. Now it was my time to surprise her and everyone else present in the throne room. I don't want the books. Guards can accompany me while I'm in there. I just want to read them. I wouldn't dare take away anything from your highness. I waited patiently for the silence to end. Finally, it was the sharp laughter of the Empress that broke it, and I could feel that she was greatly amused, but also mocking me. You, reading magic books? Ah ha ha ha. This is the best thing I've ever heard. You wouldn't understand half of it. Ah ha 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 ha. Can you even read? I can, I answered with a bow, maintaining a kind smile. I have been interested in magic since my birth. I know I am talentless, but I'd like to read about it. Sure, she continued laughing, but that word alone made me giddy deep inside. I just hit the jackpot. For making this empress laugh so hard, I will grant you access to my private library. Your Highness? Multiple voices appeared as people I hadn't seen before emerged from the shadows. Shut up, it is my decision. She growled at them, her smile disappearing in a snap of a finger. Leon of the Frontier, you are only allowed into the library if accompanied by my guards and completely naked, she added with an evil smirk, not expecting me to nod at once. Ha 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 ha. Yes, this is why your frontier people are interesting. Ha. With that, she didn't wait anymore, standing up and leaving, laughing now and then, still finding my request hilarious. Father wanted to approach me, but multiple guards led them away while I was escorted in a different direction. I mouthed to him not to worry, although my stomach felt like two hands were squeezing it. I was closely guarded and taken to the back of the palace, then down underground on a spiral staircase. By my estimations, we were at least 20 meters deep when we stepped off the steps, and I was ordered to strip. I didn't say anything while complying with their demands, and instead began scanning the area around me. The room was made out of cold stone and lit up by multiple torches. There was only one door, which was made of dark iron with no visible locks or handles. It was as plain as one could be. When I was deemed clean, one of the guards knocked twice on it, and a moment later, with a visible shudder, it began sliding into the walls. Behind it, I could already see an extensive and well-lit library, but what was more surprising was that an old man stood at the other end, wearing what I could only describe as a bathrobe with the images of stars sewn into it. Was that a mage's robe? Or was this some kind of nursery for old people, and I just woke up poor grandpa? Why is this boy naked? He asked, surprised to see me, raising an eyebrow, leaning on a walking stick that I quickly noticed to have an apricot-sized CC embedded into it. Her Majesty's order, one of the guards answered, saluting. He is to freely peruse the library while we accompany him. Is he a new inductee? No, he wouldn't be naked and escorted by you then. He grumbled, stroking his long white beard while I watched the light reflect from the top of his bald scalp. He is a normal human who asked to read about magic. What a dumbass. If not for his age and him being probably related in some way to the Empress because of his red eyes, I would have become angry. But oh well, it is best if they think I am some idiot barbarian, so I just smiled amicably at them. I could only thank my luck that it wasn't a witch to welcome me, or I may have had some problems being naked. Led inside, I could see hundreds of books neatly organized in row after row of bookshelves. Go browse. The old man waved his hand dismissively at me before turning to the guards. I wanted to call for you anyway, come with me. I need some helping hands. I am old enough to refuse to haul boxes from the basement. But we were ordered to, they said, sounding troubled. But he tapped the ground with his stick, sending loud echoes around, silencing them. Even if my great-granddaughter sits on the throne, I was the emperor of your ancestors. You do what I tell you. This little idiot won't be able to damage anything here, not to mention stealing any of the tomes. His little puckered asshole is as virgin as it gets, I can tell. Now come, I don't have all day. Fuck me. I mean don't. Shit, the royal family is messed up in the head. I couldn't help but stand still, watching them leave before turning my back to them and looking at the overwhelming knowledge before me. Calm down, I whispered before walking to one of the shelves, randomly picking out a book and flipping through it. It was filled with complex diagrams and theories, followed by pages of calculations. I was not here to understand them. That can wait for later. Come on, brain, do your thing, I thought to myself, beginning to concentrate and quickly flip through them. I relied on my enhanced memory to remember all the information, taking a snapshot of them to recall and review later. Who says you need magic when you have a cheat? Oh, son, I'm fine, I smiled, arriving back home and welcoming my father after being away for a whole day. What did they do to you? He asked, holding me by the shoulders, supporting my swaying body, looking at my tired expression and bloodshot eyes. Nothing, I chuckled. I was simply up for all the time, barely blinking, reading probably 10,000 pages. Or more. I feel dead. You look destroyed, laughed Yuri, scrutinizing me with a grin while Oleg kept an eye on her, afraid she would attack me. Should I suck you off to relax? I would fall asleep at once, and I don't trust you with that yet. Ooh, meanie. Enough, father interrupted us, leading me inside. Go, fetch me that girl Luna. She will take care of him. You two go start preparing. We are heading home at once. Dad, I'm sleepy, I moaned, wanting to just fall into a bed and sleep. You will sleep when we are on the carriage. And you two, why are you still here? I gave an order, didn't I? Yes. Oleg saluted first, dragging Yuri away while father accompanied me into my room. Tell me, son, did they torture you? I told you that nothing happened. I grinned. My head simply hurts because I memorized almost a whole library. You did what? He whispered, his eyes flashing dangerously. I memorized a lot. Yeah, I chuckled, seeing his expression change from shocked to awed and then settling on a dangerously excited look. Exactly. I still need to make sense of it. But their hubris is going to cost them a lot. Did you check the boy? Asked the cold, indifferent voice, standing before a mirror that now, instead of reflecting the face of the Empress, showed the underground library and the face of the old wizard. Magicless nobody. You don't have to worry about him. He has as much magic in him as a rat would. I wanted to make sure. You can't trust one with red hair. You are more paranoid than me, girl. The line of Vasa was killed off. There are no living witches or wizards with red hair. Haven't been for more than 1,000 years. You already know this. The first emperor made sure their line was butchered. Everybody was killed, even the chickens and their bedbugs. We can't be sure. If their blood lives, they could… No, they couldn't, the old man countered, waving his hand. Nobody remembers the Vasas. They are a dead bloodline. Nobody will come to ask back their throne. Even if they did, who would even know about them? Only ghosts. The world has forgotten them. You should too. Your obsessions will be your end, girl. Okay. So the boy was fine? Yeah. Anyone with red hair nowadays is nothing but a coincidence. This little boy was just a barbarian, thinking he would understand the profound secrets of magic. A delusional nobody. Okay. I got it. You can really go on and on about nothing. The Empress groaned, cutting the connection and looking at her own reflection in the mirror before grinning. With a satisfied smile, she stood up, walking to her window, watching the full moon above the city. Not knowing, far away from the city, in a rolling carriage, Leon couldn't wipe off the smirk from his face, not even when sleeping. Chapter 39. Going Home. After my father accompanied me back to the mansion, he ordered Luna to come over at once and tasked her with bathing me. At first, she was adamant about refusing, but stopped after she saw my father's eyes. I could fall asleep, I murmured as she stood beside the bathtub, washing my back. Her tiny fingers were fantastic and massaged me like a professional. Please don't. Master said we need to leave. I am just doing my best to revitalize you. You are doing great, I added with a moan, and I wasn't lying as it made me feel giddy inside and ready for action below my waist. Were you trained or something? Yes, she replied honestly, and although my eyes were closed, resting them after the ordeal of going through thousands of books, I could tell she was trying hard not to peek into the water. I am a trained maid. Please don't punish me. Not too hard, at least, she added with a murmur at the end, her breath audibly speeding up. Why would I? You are doing great. Because of what happened. Huh? Okay, it was time to open my eyes. She wasn't making any sense. After turning around, our faces were way too close, and I could feel her sweet breath and watch as she panicked, stepping back quickly, trying her best not to glare at my naked body. Explain, please. Your father has chosen my family to be your new servants, and, well, it seems only I will travel with you back. Huh? Why? What happened? The family fell apart and fled, she answered, lowering her head and looking at the ground, honestly ashamed of the others. They chose the life of a vagrant instead of going to serve a barbarian. Oh, what about you? Weren't you quick enough on your feet? I blurted out, and the way she snapped her head up, looking hurt and angry, her mismatched eyes filling up with tears, I could tell my joke was inappropriate. I am Luna Gottfried. I don't shirk my duties. Sorry, I didn't mean it like that, I answered with a smile, standing up, which was a mistake as my unsheathed sword was pointing straight at her face. Her troubled stare quickly chased away the anger, and she grew red as if choking on something. She was focusing on the top of my weapon before hurriedly grabbing a towel and stretching it towards me, turning her head away. Thanks. I was tempted to tease her and make her dry me up, but that would probably go too far and hurt her. She will be my personal maid from now on, so I wanted her to feel safe with me. While I was drying myself, she picked out my traveling clothes, and I won't lie, after her massage I felt much more revitalized. So they can just ignore us and not follow the decree. If they forgo their identities, yes, nobody would bat an eye, and I don't think you have any allies here to help you find them. Master. True enough. Oh well, one is more than nothing, and you can help me back home in choosing capable people and teaching them. Of what? She looked at me, watching me dress up, and I didn't miss how she was biting her lower lip for a moment. Of how to become a proper maid, duh. Yes, master. Don't sigh too hard, you will be surprised. Sure, she moaned, whispering it ever so lightly, making me chuckle. I knew she was thinking she was leaving the center of civilization to move into a mud hut in the middle of nowhere. I wasn't going to explain, as that would not do justice. It was best to let her see it for real when we arrived. It was no time to stay and rest. However, as we boarded the carriage, father and uncle were sitting opposite of me, while Luna was on my right. I saw that she was nervous and wasn't really getting why we were in such a hurry, so I asked father in her stead. We could have waited a little, no? No. They answered in tandem, surprising me. This is not about the city being dangerous, isn't it? I asked, and even if I was tired, I could pick up on the anxiety of the two. It is, especially now as 3 dead people have turned up. Elliot answered, looking at me directly, making me flinch. 3 castrated bodies of young nobles. Yuri! I shouted, scaring Luna even more as I leaned out of the carriage and she rode up to us from behind. What's up, boss? I was momentarily stunned, but then shook my head, glaring at her. Did you do it? Do what? Don't smile at me. That can't be a coincidence. Ooh, the news. I heard about it. But no, it wasn't me, promise. She disappeared for an hour and a half, Oleg added, riding up to the other side of the carriage. My apologies, my lord. It was my fault. Shit, you crazy bitch, I moaned, feeling my headache returning. We are innocent. She giggled happily. We were in the villa the whole time, weren't we? Yeah, we were. Fuck, I grumbled, looking at her, twitching my eyelids. It wasn't us, boss, she repeated honestly, trying to look innocent, but I wasn't buying it. All the evidence points towards the Zilok family. And how would you know that? How do you even know that name? And I don't. You know what? I shouted, raising a hand. Don't even answer that. I don't want to know. I want to remain in my sweet ignorance. I already guessed that from the 4 of those silk pants, the living one will be the scapegoat. For whatever reason, I tend to forget that Yuri is like wielding a revolver with 5 blanks and 1 live round. Right now, that bullet discharged without me aiming. With an angry groan, I leaned back, placing my head into Luna's lap and making her stiffen even more. Massage my head, please. It hurts like hell. Yes, master, she gulped, beginning to do so as I let my mind relax and fell asleep. Soon I couldn't help but smile as we were traveling back home with a ton of new knowledge in my mind. I dreamt about them throughout the following days, seeing the secrets of magic whirling before my mind's eye. I just had to make sense of it all slowly and steadily. What is this? Luna stuttered as we were still in the carriage, nearing my mostly finished city. The last of the buildings were about to be completed, and most of the workers were clearing the way where my first defensive wall would be erected. Ah yeah, so this is my personally designed and built city. I get that it differs from where you grew up, but I hope you will like it in the future. It is still bare bones. I will have to start planting trees and flowers to give it a color besides that of stone and… How are you able to build it? She screamed, almost falling out of the carriage, climbing out the small window, wanting to see more. I had to grab onto her waist before she had an accident, pulling her back. Well, I am somewhat of a… no better way to put it, a separatist. As my personal maid, You will learn about it anyway. What I am doing here is building my own empire. The thing we told the Empress. Lies. You see, in the future, this land will be independent. You are mad, she said, turning white, then back to pink as blood rushed to her head. Maybe. I just want to live well. Aren't we all? Ah ha ha. Now that you are here, you are also part of it. So it isn't that you have any choice but to follow me, hmm? There was no better way to put it, and her silence was partially because of the shock she just received. It was best to stay silent for now and let her process everything. When I got out of the carriage, I heard Sasha shouting my name, and by the time I turned, she was already there, jumping onto me, hugging my neck, her legs clamping around my waist and kissing me so passionately I almost fell backward. "Thank the gods you are back," she moaned, her eyes wet, not wanting to let go. And I didn't want to either. "I told you that all will be fine," I giggled, holding her by the butt, feeling myself getting excited, and I wanted nothing more than push her down. "A few weeks go by, and you become this clingy, eh? Maybe I should go away more often?" "No," she protested, turning shy and finally climbing down but holding my arm. "You didn't," she whispered, looking at my crotch, noticing the bulge, and I knew what she was thinking. "Not once." "Yet I tried," Yuri added with a sour voice, climbing down from her horse and making Sasha bloom into an even prouder, happier smile. "Master?" Luna murmured, looking lost and a bit troubled, not knowing what she should do. "Mistress?" "Huh?" Sasha flinched, looking at her and back at me, feeling awkward as nobody had called her that before. "She is Luna Gottfried, a maid from the capital city who was assigned under me by an imperial decree. From now on, she will be our personal maid." "She is cute," Sasha murmured, making Luna smile a little, bowing towards her. "She is reliable, you will see. I already thought about what her role would be, but first let her settle in. Can you show her around?" Sure," she answered happily, making Yuri grunt with displeasure. "Why are you so nice to her but not to me?" "Because that is not an answer. I don't need to explain myself to you, Yuri Besida." She scoffed with an air of royalty, making Yuri shiver, licking her lips, giving her a look filled with desire. "Shit, girl, you are starting to fire my pussy up." "Not before the child," Sasha cried out, covering Luna's ears with her hands, making her so surprised she looked at me with befuddled eyes, asking for help. "I am not a kid." She spoke up after I nodded at her to feel free to interject. "I have been an adult since 5 years ago. I am already 16. "Eh?" Sasha flinched as she mistook her to be much younger. Sorry." "I'm used to it, my mistress." She bowed elegantly, looking around, feeling a bit dizzy as she never knew nobles who would act like this. Not just before their maids, but before others, before their subjects. "Things are different here," I chuckled, watching my people coming over, welcoming me back with shouts and waving their hands happily. "You'll see. And I will let you adjust to our region, Luna. Don't worry about anything yet. Sasha will show you around, and we will prepare your own room in the palace." "Ah? You are our maid, no? What did you think I would send you live far away from us?" I laughed, watching the rising excitement in her face, overgrowing her doubts about this barbarian region of the empire. "For now, I will go, check on how you all did with the things I left for my people to complete." "Sasha." "Yes." She turned towards me, just so I could draw her close and kiss her passionately, making her almost melt in my arms. "Be ready by night. I'm pent up." I whispered into her ears that she simply returned with a happy moan and a nod, her eyes glowing in a fiery passion. Chapter 40, First Council Meeting. After calling up the people I trusted with my tasks before leaving, I hosted the very first council meeting. It happened in my throne room, which was much more decorated by now. The empty walls had paintings of landscapes depicting the mountains around us, while the wide, dark red wooden table before my throne hosted my future ministers. Not all seats were filled, only a quarter of them, but it was a start. They wore casual clothes, looking like peasants, but that didn't matter. What was important was that I began establishing multiple departments and delegating work to capable people. The fact I was smiling eased their worries as I looked at the 3 men, 2 women, and 1 lonely child amongst their ranks. Surprisingly, it was the kid, Merlin, who looked the most ready, swinging his legs, wanting to jump up and give his report already. "It is good to be back," I started, nodding at Merlin first. "I see you can barely sit still. Let's hear what you have to say, Prime Minister Merlin." "Yes, Your Highness." He stood up, standing on his chair so I could see him bow. "I oversaw and coordinated the collective while you were away. The construction of the city is going to be officially completed before the end of fall, right before schedule." "Good work. I returned earlier than expected, and am glad you all worked harder than my expectations." "Of course." Merlin nodded, feeling that it was the most evident thing of all. "Not just that, I made sure that the less talented builders began clearing the way to let us start constructing the walls as soon as possible." "How's the mine expansion that I asked for?" "Yes." Merlin nodded, looking at one of the men, prompting him to stand up. I could see how nervous he was while holding the edge of his clothes. From the looks of it, he was in his 30s, already balding a little, and his skin was rough from all the hard work he had done in the past. "Your Majesty." He bowed to me, mimicking Merlin, but he was much stiffer. "My name is Paxson, the, Minister of Mining." Huh. I think it was Merlin who gave him the rank. I would have used the word industry, but I liked how his brain worked, so it is okay. Well met, Paxson. Please continue. You don't have to be afraid. Just report the current progress." "Thank you, Your Majesty. The mine has been constantly expanding. We are still not at the designated size, but we managed to produce enough slabs for the wall to begin building, and we found a vein of iron going deep into the mountains." "Oh? Good. I was expecting that after what we saw at the original spot. Continue as you were. We will begin opening up a proper mine, so start collecting people who will work it. I need that iron. Merlin, I will need a formal report about the salary of—" "It is already done, Your Majesty," he answered proudly, getting out a parchment from his robes, letting it roll down and reading it loudly. I was initially surprised, but then I couldn't help but praise my luck for finding such a kid. He already worked out everything without me telling him to do so. Am I a bad person? Is this child labor? Not that there are any laws against it yet. Huh. Lucky me. That's my initial calculations, Your Majesty. I have earned a free year, so I won't have to pay tithe for the next cycle. We can finance our endeavors from the Treasury, and I plan to expand our tradings. I knew I didn't have anybody for that position overseeing our trade routes, but I already had a candidate in my mind. My mother. If anybody, she would be perfect for the post. Merlin nodded in the meanwhile, thinking rapidly. That would do, but we do need to fill up the treasury. With what we rob, confiscated from the nobles, those won't last for long. When commerce is getting steady, taxes will be introduced, I added, forgetting that I was talking with a kid, taking Merlin as an equal. No, he was an equal. For now, let me worry about that. Paxson, continue as you were and focus on extracting the iron ore. We should focus on establishing a proper industry and creating superior tools we can sell. A well-crafted sword worth more than a lump of iron. Yes, Your Majesty. He bowed, sitting down, wiping his forehead with a silly, happy smile. What about the food production? I want to cut our imports by at least half in the coming years. Merlin? I asked, curious about what they came up with. Yes. He nodded, looking at another minister, and this time one of the middle-aged women with tied-up black hair stood up, bowing in the same manner. My name is Zita, Your Majesty. I have been tasked with overseeing our food stocks and reviewing your outlines while you were away. Good to meet you. Please, continue. First, as you suggested, we collected as many seeds as possible. We are in the middle of relocating people who were previously under the government of the now-dead minor nobles. We will have around 6,000 people distributed between 5 villages who will focus on working the fields. Did you take my plans into consideration? I asked, and it was Merlin who answered. Naturally, the villages will work independently. They will choose their village elder, who is going to be our spokesperson, and I made sure to stress that they follow the plans for crop rotation and the preservation of soil fertility. I had to host some private lessons so they understood its logic. But if I may, Your Majesty, I don't think they get it. Not everyone is like you, I chuckled, making him blush. As long as they follow the plans, it is all good. When we have time, we will improve the villages. We will build them proper homes, mills, and anything else that helps our local production. Besides crops, start focusing on sheep and goats. We must buff their numbers. They will provide us with not just meat, but their wool is perfect for making more than just clothes. Understood, Your Majesty. Zita bowed, sitting back down. After we have enough resources in storage, we can start trading. To speed that up, I plan to build a road network to our borders. But for now, don't worry about it. I just want Merlin to keep that in the back of his mind. I chuckled, trying to further ease the mood before listening to the others. Hearing the rest, I was happy that everything worked smoothly while I was gone. There were no problems with the water. By now, the fact that bathing was so readily available was becoming the norm among the people. Good. Diseases were not what I was looking for, so my immediate problem would be finishing the sewer system. For now, it was leading far away into an open field. That was anything but ideal, but with my new knowledge in my head, a solution was very near. I just needed a little magic to help me with it. I listened to the rest for the following hour, encouraging them to continue before adjourning the first official meeting between us, asking Merlin to stay back a little. The little guy was like a hamster on coffee right now. He was in his natural element, ready to work, work, and work, his brain requiring challenges. Calm down, I laughed, patting his head while he was bombarding me with questions about what it was like in the city. I will tell you everything, but before that, here. A present? He yelled, taking the thick stack of papers from me. Kinda. I read a lot of books while I was away and found a description of your magic. When we were coming back home, I summarized it for you. They call it chameleonic transmutation, but that is unimportant. Your powers are designed to amplify other spells. I compiled an approach to help you understand yourself from what I gathered. This has descriptions of its characteristics and how similar wizards used it in past occasions for reference. It is a rare ability, so be proud, Merlin. Not many mages exist who can do what you can. Wah! Thank you, Your Majesty. He bowed multiple times, taking it away, looking just as excited as a kid on Christmas morning. Go, you can study it at your leisure, but I will need your experiences later on. What are we going to do? I am drawing up in my head a new formation that should allow us to purify the sewer water. I am still working on putting it together for now, but when I'm ready, we will start running tests. Cool. He wanted to know more, but I told him to study what I gave him. I will only tell him more when he finishes his current studies. Nothing can be rushed when it comes to magic. I missed you, I whispered as I was kissing Sasha's neck, sitting with her inside our bathtub, surrounded by multiple candles. My hands held her perky breasts while she was grinding her bottom against my crotch, splashing water everywhere. Me too, she moaned, chuckling happily before slipping her hand between her thighs and holding on to me as she sat down on my spear, giving me another happy moan. How? You already shot it out. She leaned back, giggling, keeping her waist moving continuously. Can't help it. I told you I was pent up. I bet. Tell me about it. I will do the moving. You just relax. You vixen. You know I can barely concentrate with you sitting on me. The way you massage my second brain down there short-circuits my primary one. Ahahaha. Silly. With a laugh, she turned around on me, pressing onto my chest as she began riding me with even more vigor than before. I thought you were smart enough to focus on multiple things. Cheeky. I may be able to do it, but I don't want to. I will retell everything tomorrow. Tonight, I want to only think about you. We continued enjoying ourselves, and when I lifted her out of the water, bringing her over to the bed to keep mounting her from behind, I noticed that our door was slightly open. It was only a quick glimpse, but I could swear I saw a violet eye peering in. The little pervert. Ha ha ha, somehow the knowledge she was peeping on us made me even more excited, so I decided to not tell Sasha about it. Not even when we were finished an hour later, laying there, her hot body spread out on me with a satisfied smile. How's our new maid? I asked, purposely not looking toward the door. She is polite and intelligent, but do we need a maid? I can also do the housework and… For now. But you will also have your own responsibilities. Sooner or later, we won't have time to deal with everything. She will be the head maid and assemble her own little crew, whose task will be keeping the palace prim and proper. She told me about what happened in the restaurant. That was dangerous. Not really. I smiled in answer, kissing her lips. They scrambled the moment they thought their sexy time would include horrendous pain. You want to do it like that? What? No. I answered immediately, but she quickly raised an eyebrow as my voice didn't convince her. Neither me. Okay, I found the idea of being a little bit more forceful arousing, but not to that extent. Then to what extent? She questioned me curiously, drawing circles on my chest, hitting. Huh? Maybe spanking. But not like literally punching you. No way. Other than that, maybe doing it a bit rougher. How about hair pulling? Choking. I heard a faint whisper that almost made me choke too. Ah ha 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 ha. She laughed out suddenly, surprising me, but also made it so she didn't hear Luna's drunken voice coming from behind the door. What? I asked, pouting, and she kept laughing before flicking my nose. You are embarrassed. I never saw you this way before. She continued giggling, teasing me as she sat up on my stomach. So what if I am? It is embarrassing to talk about what you find exciting. I don't want you to think of me weirdly. I don't mind. You can do those things to me. I will tell you if I don't like it so you can stop, but until then, feel free to experiment with me. I am yours, Leon, not just in body. With a whisper, she leaned forward, kissing me, initiating the night's second round, lasting for another hour.